We're going to go through on page 10, the first problem, just to lead you through an example like this. It says the cosine of theta is 8 over 10. So cosine is positive, sine is negative. So that means we're in quadrant 4. Okay. We're going to find the half angles with sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay. We're also going to make sure we determine which the half angle lies in, because remember, if the half angle sine, wherever the half angle is, depends on if sine and cosine is negative or positive. So we are in the fourth quadrant. We're going to draw a triangle. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. You can do Pythag, or you can recognize that this is in fact a 3, 4, 5. So that means this side is a 6. But again, you can get Pythag with that as well. Okay. So we know that sine of theta, if we go back a page to our formulas, that sine of theta over 2 is 1 minus, or square root of 1 minus cosine of theta divided by 2. And we need to figure out where theta over 2 lies. So if theta is in the fourth quadrant, it's less than 2 pi, but it's greater than 3 pi over 2. So if we take that angle and we divide it by 2, we recognize that theta is now between pi and 3 pi over 4. Okay. In other words, another way to think of it is if you're in quadrant 4 and you divide that by 2, you are now in quadrant 2. So theta over 2 is in quadrant 2, which means that my sine is going to be positive, my cosine is going to be negative. Okay? And my tangent should come out negative as well. All right? So we go ahead, we find sine of theta over 2, which is, let's do sine theta over 2. That's going to be the positive square root of 1 minus the cosine of theta divided by 2, which would be 1 minus the cosine of theta is, we were told, 8 over 10 divided by 2. And we're going to work this out just so we have a nice fraction underneath. So we can multiply, in this case, we can get a common denominator. That's the easiest way to do this. So we have 10 over 10 minus 8 over 10, which is 2 over 10 divided by 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by half. So we end up with the square root of 1 over 10. Okay. So this is an acceptable answer, but you could also have 1 over the square root of 10 or the square root of 10 over 10 if you rationalized. So any of those are acceptable. Okay, likewise with cosine of theta over 2, we have the negative square root of 1 plus 8 over 10, because that's our cosine of theta divided by 2. So again, common denominator, but that's going to give me 18 over 10 divided by 2. Again, multiplying by the reciprocal. So that leaves me with the square root of 9 over 10. So we have a couple options here. We have the square root of 9 over 10. Remember, it's negative. Okay, or we have negative 3 over square root of 10. Or we can rationalize and have negative 3 square root of 10 over 10. So all three are acceptable. And then you have tangent of theta over 2. Okay, remember our formula, whoops. If we go back, we see theta over 2. We're going to use this one, 1 minus cos over sine. So we have tangent 1 minus cos over sine. So we have 1 minus 8 over 10, and then your sine is 6 over 10. Oops, sorry, it's negative 6 over 10. Right, negative 6 over 10. So that we have 10 over 10. So we get 2 over 10 divided by 6 over 10. If we multiply by the reciprocal, we get negative 2 over 6, which reduces to negative 1 over 3. And that's a nice answer. Okay, you can go ahead and refer to the answer key for number 3 when